won Kansas 6-0 after a 75-72 win over number 11 Duke. Colorado beat number 2 UConn 73-72. Huskies coach Dan Hurley.
It's early. A lot of chances to get these ones that we've given away. We're going to get a lot of chances to get these back.
Number 5 Iowa State 89-84 winners over Dayton in overtime. Number 9 Alabama beat number 6 Houston 85-80. Number 8 Kentucky's 6-0 after an 87-68 win over Western Kentucky. Oregon beat number 20 Texas A&M 80-70. San Diego State with a 71-53 win over number 21 Creighton. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
It's the week of Thanksgiving, so you're a little busy. Here's something you can check off your list. Holiday shopping at Macy's. Because Black Friday is happening right now. You don't have to wait until Friday to get the season's best savings on the best gifts. You don't even have to wait until the end of this message. Head over to Macy's now and save big. If you go to Macy's.com, you can get your gifts shipped for free when you spend $25 or more. That's one less thing on your to-do list. Exclusions apply. See Macy's.com for details.
After you use Bounce Dryer Sheets and realize how fresh, soft, less wrinkled, and less staticky your laundry can be, you'll put a sheet on it every time. Like those socks that smell like they've been through a marathon. Put a sheet on it. Or that blanket that's got wrinkles on its wrinkles. Put a sheet on it. Maybe even your chatty coworker who keeps distracting you. Okay, Bounce Dryer Sheets can't do it all. But for fresher, softer, better laundry, put a sheet on it with Bounce.
No way football is playing in the fall and winter
because the hits don't hurt as much when you're numb. Get the lowdown on all the sports action coming up right here.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Off and running in today's edition of Football Full Circle right here on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Sirius Channel 159, Lisi and Wetzel taking you around the NFL for the next hour. Thanksgiving holiday on the horizon. 3 games on tap. Scotty, we'll dive into those in just a couple of minutes. But the news of the day, Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones gets picked up by the Minnesota Vikings. Unbelievable that Daniel Jones is actually on a football team outside the New York Giants. Give me your thoughts about the recent addition of Danny Dimes to the Vikes.
Yeah, I really thought it was going to be our Dolphins, Joe. I really, and I hate to say it, but actually made a lot of sense. Well, I did because the Dolphins perceive themselves as a winning team. I think he would think the Dolphins are a winning team. Like he didn't want to go to the Raiders or a losing team. And then Tua tags is an accident waiting to happen, right? Yeah. So we already seen Skylar Thompson. He can't even freaking hand the ball off against New England without fumbling a football. So the Dolphins have no backups. I mean, it wouldn't have actually been the worst thing in the world. And it really did make a whole lot of sense to me. So with Minnesota, okay, it's kind of weird. The two New York quarterbacks or former New York quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
Darnold with the Jets. So, I mean, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? I guess it's a good move. If this was the type of team, right? They perceive themselves to be a winner, a win-now team. And in case our quarterback gets hurt, we don't want to put in, a Skylar Thompson or whoever. I don't know who the Vikings backup
Nick
quarterback
Mullins is there. Nick Mullins is there.
Yeah.
We've been down
that road before.
Right. It's weird, Scotty, because I think, and you look at the situation with Minnesota, it's more, I believe, like a 2025 move because I've heard teams saying that they're really interested in Sam Darnold, right? And depending upon where Minnesota goes in terms of the playoffs, we do expect Minnesota to potentially turn back to J.J. McCarthy in regards to being the number one quarterback coming off the injury with the ACL, having all offseason to prepare, getting him ready. I mean, the only way I could see maybe Sam Darnold being in Minnesota next year is if he leads them to an NFC championship. They knock off, let's say, Detroit, and all of a sudden they get to the Super Bowl. Then you have a situation on your hands, right? I mean, this isn't like Joe Flacco. This is a quarterback that's played the whole regular season, has led this team to basically 8-9 wins on the docket, one of the best teams in the NFC right now, and he's playing better, much better than he did with San Francisco and the New York Jets throughout his career.
Yeah, we kind of, or at least we almost had that, Joe, last year with the Indianapolis Colts, right, with Gardner Minshew. You got Anthony Richardson plays, 2, 3, 4 games. He gets hurt, so you really don't know what you have in him. Minshew takes a 1 win away from going to the playoffs, and you could see like them saying maybe Minshew's our guy, but they make the decision. Minnesota, this is a little bit even further advanced than what Indianapolis got, obviously, last year. I don't know. Have they seen, and at least they saw a little bit out of Richardson. They didn't see anything out of J.J. McCarthy to make them say, okay, he still is our guy. But you're right. You got to figure he's going to leave. McCarthy will step in, I suppose, and then maybe this is a Daniel Jones. But Daniel Jones, I know he's not good, and I wouldn't want him. But there's only so many pieces out there, Joe. There's so many open quarterback spots that I can't help but think there's going to be some team that's going to at least bring him in to be able to compete for a starting job and really kind of like be the man. Kind of like maybe not quite a Baker Mayfield with Tampa Bay, last year, but at least a team that says, all right, we'll bring – there's got to be some GM that's still around when he was in college that really liked him.
Like Geno Smith, that type of situation where he has a second life with Seattle. Yeah. I mean, right now, if you're asking one team and who would be interested in Daniel Jones, now maybe it's based off the past 2 weeks where we saw Will Levis step up in terms of 260, 270 back-to-back performances. They get the victory over Houston this past week, but I would have said prior to the past 2 weeks, Tennessee would have been a perfect landing spot for Daniel Jones, right? Because of what you were getting in terms of the development of Will Levis up until this point. Now, he has developed, depending upon what he does over the next 5 games of the regular season. If he, let's say, turns the other way and reverts back to the quarterback that he was in the early part of the season, then you could say Tennessee would have been. Same thing with Bryce Young. People have said Bryce Young has turned the corner. We saw Carolina battle Kansas City this past weekend. They don't win, but they cover as a 10.5-point underdog. It's the same type of situation looking for a quarterback. Now, Bryce Young signed through, I believe, 26, right? So that would have been, a tough situation. But those are certain types of areas where he could develop. I mean, in Minnesota with McCarthy, it would have to be a similar situation to what we see with Bryce Young and even Will Levis in Tennessee, where JJ doesn't produce at all in the first half of the regular season. Then you would turn to Daniel Jones. Other than that, he's going to be relegated to a backup with Minnesota.
Well, ask yourself this. I'll give you 3 names, and you give me the pecking order. If you were a team, last place team, next to last place team, whatever. All right, Daniel Jones, Justin Fields, and Derek Carr is going to be a free agent. And I don't think he's going to re-sign with the Saints.
I would take Fields. That's me. I knew
that. I knew you were going to do that.
But here's the thing, though, Scotty. Fields wins. Knock him for whatever. He was still 4-2 as a starter. He got that Chicago Bear team to 7 wins, and they claimed it's the same situation almost like the Jets. If they almost had a quarterback, they would be a 10 or an 11-win football team. Now they have Caleb Williams, and they have 4 wins on the resume, right? 4 or 5 wins. So it's the same situation. Justin Fields maybe exceeded expectations with that gutless Chicago Bear team last year. I mean, let's call it what it is. It's going to be interesting because I think Carr could play. I think Carr, though, is a compiler. When the game is on the line, you want Derek Carr leading your offense. No. You want Daniel Jones leading your offense. Look at the 2 opportunities he had this year on the road in Monday night, game on the line, to at least tie that game up against the Steelers, throws a critical interception. I would much rather take a shot with Justin Fields than Carr or Jones in that situation.
Are any of those guys worth, like, if you're the Jets, and I'm assuming that Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be back, but are any of those guys that you would say, all right, you're our guy? You know what? We're not going to bring in anybody else. We're not going to draft a quarterback. Derek Carr, Daniel Jones, Justin Fields, whoever, you're our guy, and here's a 3-year contract.
Well, here's the thing.
Sam Darnold as well.
I said, well, you can't go back to Sam Darnold. If you're the Jets, you can never go back to a quarterback that you took as a first-round selection and expect to have a second coming in that situation. Just never works out. The fan base will never accept it. What I will tell you is that I thought prior to getting Aaron Rodgers, I thought Justin Fields was a much better fit with the New York Jets than he was with any other team. And the reason why I said that is you could pair him with potentially Garrett Wilson, a player that he played with, an Ohio State guy throughout his career, right? The quarterback to wide receiver relationship. He was a mobile quarterback. The offensive line was a concern throughout Aaron Rodgers the past couple of years. He can contain if the offensive line breaks down. You have the RPO game, and he's young enough where if he does develop and has the type of season that Sam Darnold had, now you have your quarterback for the next 4 or 5 seasons. You don't have to worry about an aging veteran like Aaron Rodgers. So I thought that Justin Fields was a perfect fit for the New York Jets, meaning this year, than any other quarterback they could have gotten.
Yeah, I'm still amazed that he didn't get anything. You have a conditional 4th-round pick. I mean, no one wanted him, Joe. Yeah, but you can't say, well, I don't want to give up a 1st-round pick for him or even a 2nd-round. I mean, the Steelers got him for next to nothing. Conditional 4th-round pick. I mean, there was just no interest. Has that changed in the 3-4 games he played for Pittsburgh?
The perception of the backup quarterback, I think, has changed. Look at Cleveland. Look at what they have gotten out of Jameis Winston compared to, and even Joe Flacco last year, compared to what they had in terms of the $281 million man in Deshaun Watson. Look at what, Geno has done with a second lease on life. Look at Baker Mayfield when he went from the Rams to now Tampa Bay, right? Nobody wanted Baker Mayfield. Everybody wanted to let him go, right? So it is intriguing. The backup quarterback now has much more value this year than it did in any other years in the past. We'll come back. We'll break down the Holiday State coming up next.
Fall is coming.
Don't look like an idiot at work.
Know your stuff.
Football and everything else.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The Federal Housing Finance Agency is increasing the size of home loans that the government can guarantee against default as it takes into account rising housing prices.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg.
This update brought to you by Cintas. Beginning next year, mortgage buyers Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will be able to acquire loans of up to $806,500 on single-family homes in most of the country, according to the agency. The new conforming loan limit is a 5.2% increase from its 2024 level. Americans' outlook on the economy improved modestly in November, lifted by expectations for lower inflation and more hiring. The Conference Board, a business research group, said Tuesday that its consumer confidence index ticked up to 111.7 from 109.6 in October. The small increase followed a big gain in October. Rising consumer confidence suggests Americans may spend more in the coming months, which would help boost economic growth.
I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
I got a line.
He got a line.
She got a line.
We got 4 lines. Cricket Nation, Q finger guns, really easy, super stress-free. 5G so fast, like blazing fast. Games and memes, you'll have a blast. You can get fast 5G across 4 lines. You can get fast 5G across 4 lines. As we discuss, take it from us. We 4 are 1 Cricket Nation.
And only $25 a line. Welcome to more lines. Welcome to Cricket Nation. Smile, you're on Cricket.
Cricket 5G requires a compatible device and is not available everywhere. Discount varies by line. Fees may apply. Terms and restrictions apply. See cricketwireless.com for details.
Not sure how much you know about Progressive Insurance. You may know us for insuring your home and auto. You may know a couple of our commercials. But what you may not know is that since 2013, Progressive has been honoring veterans with vehicle donations through the annual Keys to Progress Veteran Vehicle Giveaway Program, giving back to those who gave so much. Now, you probably didn't wake up today saying, I really wish I knew more about Progressive Insurance, but this seemed like the type of thing people wouldn't mind hearing about. Find out more about how we're dedicated to our customers and communities at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Fall is almost here.
It's time to stow the lawnmower and get ready for all that glorious action coming your way. Stay tuned to SportsGrid for all the strategies, angles, and info you need to get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Back on Football Full Circle, Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel diving into the Thanksgiving Day games right now. Gobble, gobble. Detroit opens up, Scotty, as a 10.5-point home favorite over divisional opponent Chicago. I mean, that second half was amazing. I was sitting on the over against Minnesota. I thought I was dead and buried at 43.5. The game was lulling, a typical Chicago Bear game. But in the final 3 minutes, Caleb Williams leads the team back. They score a touchdown. They get an onside kick. They go to overtime. In the end, Minnesota prevails 30-27. But Caleb with a breakout performance, 330 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. We saw Keenan Allen step up finally for that attack. running the football consistently. They now go on the road, and I know Detroit's hammering teams. They pick up another dominant road win over Anthony Richardson and the Colts. They cover as a 7.5-point home road favorite. Didn't win this game last year against Green Bay. In fact, they got absolutely blown out on their home field. I like them to win this game, but I'll say this, Scott, 10.5 in a divisional game, way too many points. I'm taking the Bears, but I do feel we get through the 48.5-point number.
Yeah, on a short week, no less, too. By the way, isn't it kind of weird? You know, the 3 teams last week that made the miracle comebacks all ended up losing. Whether it's Chicago scored the 11 points in the final 2 minutes, whether it's Washington, the craziness with Dallas and missing the extra point, or Carolina scoring, late in the game against Kansas City and end up losing the game. So it's kind of weird. Some interesting numbers here, Joe, on Thanksgiving. I was doing the research last night, and it is amazing. These Thanksgiving Day favorites, man, they don't lose. It's really remarkable. Thanksgiving Day favorites since 2004, 48-9 straight up, 38-19 against the spread. 10-point favorites as the Lions are 9-0 against the spread. Yeah. So in a short week, they've generally been division games. Maybe they haven't. Maybe we got to go back 10, 15 years and look at the games, and maybe they were a little bit more one-sided to make the numbers be that so one-sided. But I don't know how you take an underdog outside of the Giants, which I'll get to here in a second when we discuss that game. But it's hard. They're a perfect tease, Detroit. I don't think they're going to lose after losing last year. But you're right. Who the heck wants to lay 10.5 on a short week in a division game? Very tough to do.
That line suggests that Detroit's going to win that game, 28-10? Maybe the under comes in. They're going to hammer them again. And I get it because they're so dominant. The offensive defensive lines have been phenomenal right now for the Detroit Lions. Anthony Richardson handcuffed completely in terms of the passing attack. And now you have another rookie quarterback coming into Ford Field. I understand that, but it's still 10.5. And if you're Chicago, you lost the Hail Mary game. You lost the game in terms of the blocked field goal, right? You lost last week where you come storming back. You've had 3 emotional losses on the season. This is an opportunity to at least show out. We know that most likely, mathematically, they might still be alive for a wild card, but they're dead and buried, right? So, if this is their Super Bowl. All eyes on the Bears. They're going up against potentially the best team in the NFL in terms of Detroit right now. I understand you could throw Buffalo and Philly into the mix, but it's still Detroit, right? Best team from a conference perspective. From the odds, 10.5. I mean, basically that's giving them no shot. I mean, I don't know, to your point, if they win the ball game outright, but I mean, this has me intrigued, Scotty. I mean, over 48.5, I would take a shot in terms of Keenan Allen and maybe DJ Moore attacking that secondary. St. Brown's banged up as well, along with Montgomery. That could really put a lot of pressure on Jared Goff in this matchup and Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah. I'll give you a couple of numbers here. Matt Eberflus, head coach of the Bears, right? As far as winning this game,
he's terrible.
2-15, Joe, against winning teams straight up. That's like, wow. Not 10-win team, 2-15, even a 2-1 or a 3-1 when it's earlier in the season, you can win those. He doesn't even win those games. They have won 4 straight, including last year on Thanksgiving Day. And they are 5-1 after heading into the season being awful against NFC North teams. They are 5-1 against the spread this year against NFC North teams. So they've definitely held their own. The Lion against the spread numbers are phenomenal, though, right? We spend an hour. They're the best team by far in the NFL. Not even close. Jared Goff, indoors, the whole kit and caboodle. They can clinch a playoff spot with a victory and a bunch of other things. Too long of a list, but they can theoretically clinch a playoff spot. I mentioned, they did lose last year. Is that going to motivate them just a little bit this year? Jared Goff, the one I'll give you, he's 10-2 straight up as a double-digit favorite, 8-4 against the spread, but I can't bet against the Lions. Their numbers are too good, but I would put them at ease. But I wouldn't bet on them, though, this week.
Okay. All right. So, FanDuel does a great job of putting up the specials. Okay?
Right.
And I guarantee you I'm going to hook you just like we're going fishing right here because there's a couple of bets that actually caught my eye. And let me give you the first one. Right. Each team, right, to score 1 touchdown and 1 field goal in each half. What do you think that number is?
I've played those before, so I think I'll be pretty much on. Although I have not looked at this one, but right around 15-1, 17-1.
20-1 for tomorrow.
Okay. Maybe a little bit better. Okay.
I like
That's
that.
That's not bad. I like that too.
That's not bad. Knowing that the offense at least has shown a little bit of consistency since Thomas Brown has taken over for Chicago, right? They put up 19 against Green Bay. They followed it up with 27 last week. Short week, granted, but I like that. All right, here's another one.
And indoors, by the way, helping the field goal guys out. Indoors.
Right.
So.
All right, here's one that I think. Caleb Williams and Jared Goff to each record 40-plus passing yards in each quarter. What do you think?
That's got to be at least 30-1.
17-1.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say each half. I was like, okay, where do we sign?
Yeah,
I played 100 yards in each
half. We're
half.
giving it to you on a platter. We'll give you the bib, too, right? I mean, come on. Each quarter.
That might be one possession. So
no,
I don't like
stop. We'll come back with
like
more specials. Breaking down Chicago and Detroit. Keep it where it is.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
Hello, Joe. What do you know?
We need a hit, so here I go.
1941, Joe DiMaggio is named the AL MVP, beating out Ted Williams, who batted .406.
Joe connects with a solid blow and clouts a mighty 2-run homer.
Joltin' Joe had a 56-game hitting streak that year, a record that still stands today. For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
I overslept, it's noon, and I haven't defrosted the turkey! I called an old MIT friend, a thermodynamics expert, who told me to fire up the oven quick. Blast that turkey 10 minutes, starting a thaw and the Maillard reaction. That's the complex chemistry that browns the skin, seals the juices, and smells awesome. Dunk that bird in running water, 20 minutes a pound, speed thaw to no more than 40 degrees, or get to meet salmonella.
Who is that, some washed-up jockey?
No, that's food poisoning. Then spatchcock the turkey.
Excuse me?
Cut out the backbone and roast it flat till that bird's dead, really dead at 165 degrees.
Dinner is served.
In record time. Follow me at Chicapalbo on Twitter and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this. Enjoy your bird.
Sports Rage tonight.
It's just comically pathetic, too, to hear the New York Giant fans try to, reason why he's not there. Well, you know what? We weren't winning when he's there. We don't know what it just. So, in other words, you don't want, some of the greatest players ever played in football playing on your team. That's what you're telling me. You think it's better not to have him. The logic of the Giant organization is beyond stupid.
It's Sports Rage tonight with Gabe Morency. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific. On the SportsGrid Radio Network. Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge anywhere.
Even while the wife's talking to you.
If you've got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, back on Football Full Circle, breaking down the first holiday game on the slate, Chicago and Detroit. Scott and I left off talking about some specials in the game. I'll give you one, Scotty, that I definitely think you're going to give me the money right now. So you ready? Jahmyr Gibbs and DeAndre Swift to have 5 rushing yards in each quarter tomorrow. Take a shot on what the odds are in terms of that.
Swift and Gibbs, 5 yards each quarter, huh?
Yeah.
I would say that would be around 7-8 to 1.
Come on, you looked. It's 7-1.
I did. I'm a genius. Yeah. What can I tell you?
Yeah,
I know this.
So what do you think about that one? Now, we know I want to paint the picture. Montgomery's banged up. FanDuel doesn't have totals listed for Montgomery, but he is mentioned in regards to the specials. So we got to take a little more wait and see approach, see if they post a total on Montgomery by tomorrow morning. But right now it's just Gibbs. His total for Gibbs on the game is, I believe, 71.5 for Jahmyr Gibbs. You have DeAndre Swift at 48.5. No Rashawn Johnson. They just listed just now Montgomery, 50.5. So he is on the board. Prior to the break, he wasn't on there. So what do you want?
Swift would be the one. I think whether Montgomery plays or not. And I did listen to a little bit of Dan Campbell, and he felt kind of bad because he wanted to get put back in the game, Montgomery, and he didn't. So he might lean towards Montgomery a little bit more this game just because of that. But I think Gibbs will still get his number. It would be the Swift that I'd be concerned about.
Well, then we can sprinkle in a little Montgomery, but you're not going to like it because they don't have Montgomery with the Chicago running backs. They have Montgomery with Jahmyr Gibbs. So, like, for instance, you want to take Montgomery and Gibbs to have 10 rushing yards in each quarter tomorrow, it's 36-1. You want to take Montgomery and Gibbs to have 15 rushing yards in each quarter, it's 170-1. So that's tough, though. 15 yards in each quarter, depending upon game flow, you might not, like to your point, you might only get one possession. So then you're really against it in response to, if you lay that out. That's why I like the 5. I would take a shot on the 5. Would you wouldn't do the 7-1 with Swift and Gibbs? You don't think Swift could get 5 yards?
Well, that's not that I wouldn't do it. It's not 20-1 like some of these others that we're gonna be going over. So listen, 5 yards is not that big a deal, all right? I mean, I'm not worried about the second half of the game for Detroit because it might be a blowout, so they're going to be running the ball a little bit more. It would be, the first half where teams come out flying, they throw the football all over the place, and so. But 5 yards is next to nothing, right? It's just a matter of do the guys get the carries or not.
Yeah, I still like Chicago. I would look to the Chicago props in the game. I'm going to take the Bears plus the 10.5. I feel like the Detroit game is always the one that has the best shot to go over. When you look at Dallas and New York, granted, we'll get into that in terms of next segment. You talk about both of those backup quarterbacks, both garbage, no matter who starts. I know Dallas trended to the over last week, but, you would have to believe with Goff and still with Caleb, the potential for turnovers on the Chicago Bears side could lead to a short field. 48.5 is doable. Is there one player you're keying from the props perspective? For me, I would take a shot with Keenan Allen. 49.5 is his number. It looked like he got going with Caleb in the fourth quarter last week to catch the touchdown. Maybe he gets to 60 or 70 in this game.
Yeah, this would be a good game. It's Dan Campbell, Joe, right? So, he's overdue for doing something goofy. So, offensive lineman maybe scoring a touchdown, or a tight end.
That's a crazy number, 17-1.
Yeah, I think this is a good game for that. Should be a high-scoring game, nationally televised game. These coaches, they all want to show the world how smart they are, so let's do something goofy on national TV. You mark it down. This is going to be like a fake punt, the offensive lineman scoring a touchdown, a crazy guy, whether it's a running back or a wide receiver throwing a pass. I can almost guarantee Detroit is going to do something goofy on Thanksgiving Day. I would play all those props, and hopefully one comes through because they're all going to be paying about 30-40-1. So you only need one of them to actually happen.
We'll see. I think it is 17-1 right now for an offensive lineman to score tomorrow. So we'll jump into that.
I will take it.
New York Giants, Dallas Cowboys coming up next. Keep it where it is.
The winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. Shop Chuck Sanders. Men's top 25 hoops on Tuesday. Number 4, Auburn beat number 12, North Carolina 85-72. Number 1, Kansas 6-0 after a 75-72 win over number 11, Duke. Colorado beat number 2, UConn 73-72. Huskies coach Dan Hurley.
It's early. A lot of chances to get these ones that we've given away. We're going to get a lot of chances to get these back.
Number 5, Iowa State 89-84 winners over Dayton in overtime. Number 9, Alabama beat number 6, Houston 85-80. Number 8, Kentucky's 6-0 after an 87-68 win over Western Kentucky. Oregon beat number 20, Texas A&M 80-70. San Diego State with a 71-53 win over number 21, Creighton. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
It's the week of Thanksgiving, so you're a little busy. Here's something you can check off your list. Holiday shopping at Macy's. Because Black Friday is happening right now. You don't have to wait until Friday to get the season's best savings on the best gifts. You don't even have to wait until the end of this message. Head over to Macy's now and save big. If you go to Macy's.com, you can get your gifts shipped for free when you spend $25 or more. That's one less thing on your to-do list. Exclusions apply. See Macy's.com for details.
After you use Bounce Dryer Sheets and realize how fresh, soft, less wrinkled, and less staticky your laundry can be, you'll put a sheet on it every time. Like those socks that smell like they've been through a marathon. Put a sheet on it. Or that blanket that's got wrinkles on its wrinkles. Put a sheet on it. Maybe even your chatty coworker who keeps distracting you. Okay, Bounce Dryer Sheets can't do it all. But for fresher, softer, better laundry, put a sheet on it with Bounce.
Days are getting cooler
and shadows are getting longer.
You know what that means?
It's football weather. So bundle up and keep it here for all the latest strategies and gridiron information.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, diving into the breakdowns for Thanksgiving Day. We just left off talking about Detroit and Chicago. I like Chicago plus the points, Scotty, and the over. Your pick is what, Detroit? And are you taking the over or no?
Yeah, I'll definitely take the over, but I'll go with Detroit, even though I don't think it's a smart bet, just because the number's so big. But the numbers are just too overwhelming with favorites and big-time favorites and just Detroit in general. It's got to be something really crazy for me to go against Detroit, so give me the Lions.
I mean, let me ask you this before we transition. If the line from an in-game perspective got the Bears, let's say 14.5, 15, would you jump in there in terms of that? Let's say the Lions, first drive, touchdown. Would you take a shot with the Bears from in-game with that type of line?
I would. Yeah, then I would. Yeah, getting over 2 TDs or 2 Gs.
And you might get that. You might get that tomorrow, right? We don't know. It all depends. If Detroit does start fast, this line could balloon to 17 or 18, so we'll see how it plays out. You mentioned how dominant the favorites are, and I'm sure that we're going to discuss this. That's when you have a good home team. This team, well, both teams playing tomorrow are absolutely atrocious in their own building. So maybe you get a better effort from the New York Giants. But both the New York Giants and Dallas Cowboys are winless in their home buildings this year. If I would have told you that, Scotty, that at the start of the year, what would you have given me? 150-1 in terms of those odds, knowing that Dallas was 16-0 at home over the past couple of years?
I know, it's amazing. We're in late November, and neither one has, right? I'm more surprised with Dallas than I am the Giants, but really both in general. I mean, and those numbers, as crazy as it is, right? So you hear some of those numbers against the spread Thanksgiving, right? We gave them out before, 39 or 38 and 19, right? So you automatically just bet all the favorites, right? Tomorrow, it's a no-brainer. Except, there's always an except, Joe, when it comes to gambling. Except the Dallas Cowboys, who are only 6-9. So if you take the Cowboys out of those numbers, then the favorites are really overwhelming. But it's Dallas that is holding up the rear at 6-9 against the spread. So there's always some caveat to this stuff.
All right, so let's jump into this. Tommy Cutlets is beat up. So there's no New York Giant, right, listed on FanDuel right now. They have a Cooper Rush line of 207.5. Dallas wins outright as a 10.5-point road dog against Dan Quinn and the Commanders last week. They did it defensively for much of the way, shocking. And then their offense did move the football in the fourth quarter. I don't know if I could take 207.5 with Rush. I'm with you in terms of taking the Giants, but this to me has underwritten all over it, which probably means this is the game that blows through the total, right? Whenever you see that. I can only look to Tyrone Tracy and Dowdle with the rushing attack. I do feel Dowdle has better value because Dallas is at home. This is a game that Jerry and maybe the coaching staff feel they can win with Cutlets, Locke, or Tim Boyle going under center. I would say Dowdle is my best bet. If I had to bet this game, and I don't know if I am yet, I would lay the 3.5 with that. I cannot bet the Giants in this situation. I just can't, Scotty. I can't do it.
It's tough. Dallas, those lost 6 straight at home, all by 20 points or more after you mentioned that 16-0 streak. Back to here's the key, Joe. I don't know if this plays a role. 2 things. One, first, we got Jerry Jones coming out yesterday saying Mike McCarthy's job might not really be in jeopardy. I don't know how the Dallas Cowboy player, did you see that? Says he might not necessarily fire him or not rehire him.
If he does that, what do you think? What is going to happen if they start the way they did this year?
If they bring him back, and this is the end of his contract, so this is not just bringing him back. This is giving him a new, at least 3-year deal. You would have to think he'd get. I mean, so how do the Cowboy players feel about that news from Jerry this week? 2, second of back-to-back short weeks for the Cowboys. If you go back 2 weeks ago, remember they played on a Monday night. So then they had a short week going up against Washington, and now it's an even shorter week going up against the Giants. So that tends to take its toll on players. I can't believe it, but I'm leaning towards the Giants. And here's the thing. I don't know if Tommy Cutlets does play, Joe. He's only got a short leash, right? They're not going to keep him in there the whole game if he's struggling the whole game. So you really have both quarterbacks. And maybe Drew Lock comes off the bench and provides a little bit of a spark.
All right.
I'm going to go with the over because the number's so low, 37.5. And I think I'm going to take a little flyer on the Giants, believe it or not.
Okay, that's understandable. But then let me ask you this. How could you back the props perspective for anybody on the Giants not knowing what you're going to get out of the quarterback position? Like if I take Neighbors at 67.5, who's throwing him the football? Because I don't want Tim Boyle throwing him the football. I would much rather have Locke and Tommy Cutlets than gutless Tim Boyle that couldn't complete 50% in college, let alone the NFL. I mean, how do you take Neighbors? Now, Neighbors is worth something because he was very vocal in the locker room this week, right? Saying, hey, the team is gutless, and the New York media pushed back. Right, but they pushed back on him saying you need to earn it first. And he says, you know what? He's not going to keep his mouth shut. So I'd be willing to take Neighbors at 67.5. But Wan'Dale Robinson, 34.5. Theo Johnson, 25. These are tough numbers, Scott, to really back when you don't know what you're going to get out of the quarterback position.
Yeah, it is. On paper, Joe, it does make sense, right? You got a guy who spouts out about not getting the ball. So you want to appease him, especially if you're, head coach, a lame duck head coach like they have there with the Giants. So you figure someone's got to get him the football. Maybe you stay away from the yards. Maybe you go to receptions. And I generally go the other way around. I generally like the yards because you can get that in one play, right? But maybe Dallas realizes that. But the Giants have to go into this game saying we got to get Neighbors the ball, 6-7 times. I don't care if it's just a 1-yard pass. We have to get him the football. So I'd be more inclined to go with reception.
You talked it into fruition. It was just over 6.5 at plus 122. They just shaved 20 cents off that. It's plus 102 now. As they're listening to the show. As smart minds, listen to the show. What can I say? But 6.5. Here's the thing. You're telling me CeeDee Lamb on Thanksgiving isn't going to show up? He's got the same exact number as Malik Neighbors at 67.5. I mean, CeeDee Lamb at 67.5. You got Dowdle listed at 15.5, and nobody else from the Cowboys. That's no Schoonmaker. That's no secondary tight end. There's no Tolbert. There's nobody listed for the Cowboys outside of CD right now on FanDuel. You're telling me you can't get to 80 or 90, even if the Giants win? They got to feed them the rock tomorrow. No?
They do. Old school, no, right? But, in the last couple of years, really, you get these nationally televised games when they know the whole world is watching. Those superstars, especially the wide receivers who are so outspoken, they get the ball. They do. So come hook or crook, they'll find a way. I think both teams, CeeDee Lamb over and Neighbors over. So one way or the other.
A parlay, okay? So longest reception, Neighbors 21.5, Lamb 21.5, Wan'Dale Robinson 14.5. You parlay all of those together, you get plus 468, and I think you could take it on FanDuel with a profit. You can't. No profit boost, but it's a no sweat token. So you want to do that? It's not bad. Taking all three wideouts, longest reception as opposed to the yards. You got catch after the run as well.
Yeah, I like 21.5. It's not a big number for those guys. I'm surprised it's that low. I figured it was going to be into 30. Usually that number's around 30 or so, depending on the wide receiver. But then,
what do you?
So 21.
What do you think about what do you think about Neighbors' longest reception? 14.5. What do you think about that?
He's got to get a 15.
I mean,
I thought his was 21.5 too.
I mean, Wan'Dale. I was talking Wan'Dale. That's cheap too. Wan'Dale's cheap, right?
Yeah. He'd be the third one I'd leave out, but I like the other two for sure.
We'll come back. We'll give our picks for Dallas and Giants coming back. Keep it where it is.
Yeah, it's getting cooler.
Football weather is here.
Stay tuned for all the latest odds, strategies, and info. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The Federal Housing Finance Agency is increasing the size of home loans that the government can guarantee against default as it takes into account rising housing prices.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg.
This update brought to you by Cintas. Beginning next year, mortgage buyers Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will be able to acquire loans of up to $806,500 on single-family homes in most of the country, according to the agency. The new conforming loan limit is a 5.2% increase from its 2024 level. Americans' outlook on the economy improved modestly in November, lifted by expectations for lower inflation and more hiring. The Conference Board, a business research group, said Tuesday that its consumer confidence index ticked up to 111.7 from 109.6 in October. The small increase followed a big gain in October. Rising consumer confidence suggests Americans may spend more in the coming months, which would help boost economic growth.
I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Finding the perfect gifts for everyone on your list takes time, and the holidays can get a little busy. So let Macy's help you get a jump on your shopping with our Black Friday sale happening right now. It's your chance to find the best deals on the best gifts before the holiday rush, like cozy puffers and coats and more of the season's best styles. So get your gifts at Macy's now, and when you're cool, calm, and collected during holiday crunch time, you'll have yourself and Macy's to thank. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Oh no, my phone.
Hear that? It's the sound of a skater dropping her phone and smashing it on the ice. Yep, it's definitely broken. But at Verizon, we got you. Black Friday starts now. Trade in any phone, any condition from one of our top brands and get a new Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus on Unlimited Ultimate and Watch 7 and Tab S9 FE 5G. That's up to $1,900 in value. So you'll save big on 3 great gifts. Hurry into Verizon this Black Friday. Service plan required for watch and tablet. Up to $1,900 value based on phone, watch, and tablet. Trade in and additional terms apply. See Verizon.com for details.
Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important.
That's where we come in.
SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning
more often.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Back on Football Full Circle, breaking down the Thanksgiving Day game. Scott and I left off talking Giants and Cowboys. Both teams ironically winless at home. Cowboys laying 3.5 points as a home favorite. Total is 37 and a hook. It looks like it might be DeVito, might be Tim Boyle. Flip a coin by the time the game rolls around. But Scott and I were looking at longest reception for both CeeDee Lamb, Neighbors at 21.5. I did throw in Wan'Dale Robinson, my guy, at 14.5. And you get that, it's plus 468. So FanDuel offering a no-sweat token might be worth their shot in terms of that matchup. I'm going to lay it, Scott, with the Cowboys. I'm going to take a shot. I think it's a very winnable game, knowing how bad the locker room is for New York. I'm not suggesting Dallas is better, but at least they're coming off a win. I'm giving Dallas and the under in terms of tomorrow night's game.
All right, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to take the Giants. I'm going to take the over as well. I think they hit rock bottom, the Giants. Not so much like they can't play worse, but the soul searching that went on this week, Joe. And we saw a little bit of it last week when they released Danny Nichols, as I like to call him. Teams questioning whether they really wanted to win or not. They lay a complete egg, play awful against Tampa Bay. They have to do a little bit more soul searching. Short week, that's okay. Almost better. I think the Giants put up a good performance, whether it's DeVito or Drew Lock. They have Lock listed at FanDuel's prop. They don't have his numbers, but they have his name, if that means anything for you.
Yeah, so we'll say, you know what? Lock could put up some numbers. And you know what? If Lock is the quarterback, don't be shocked if those giant wide receivers do blow past their number. His only real experience came this year in terms of game experience. He backed up when they got blown out at home against Saquon Barkley and the Eagles, 28-3. Played the whole fourth quarter. He looked terrible in that matchup. I needed one touchdown to get over basically 31.5 from an in-game perspective. He'd give me absolutely nothing, Scott. So basically, he's dead to me. I'm taking the Cowboys. Late night game, we got our Dolphins taking on Green Bay. Green Bay playing as good as anybody right now. They've won, I believe, 6 of the last 7. They dominated an undermanned San Francisco team. They beat them up too last week, Scotty. Offensive line running the football with Josh Jacobs. Defense coming into their own, forcing turnovers. Last week against Braden Allen and that offense for San Francisco. I don't want to say the Dolphins are live, but the line is fishy at 3.5. I thought that line should be 4 or 5, knowing how the Dolphins play in cold weather environments. I lean Dolphins with the 3.5, but I'm taking the over 47 and a hook here as well.
Yeah, I love Green Bay. Just like these last 2 weeks, the Dolphins were supposed to beat the Raiders. They're supposed to beat the Patriots. They beat those teams. They feast on lousy teams. And they don't do well against winning teams. It's as clear as day. Against losing teams, 22-10. Against winning teams, 5-17, Joe. 5-17 as road underdogs. 3-16 straight up. They haven't won the AFC East in 15 seasons. So why you bring up that now? Because this week they could get mathematically eliminated if they lose and Buffalo wins. It'll make it 16 in a row. It's eventually going to happen anyway, right? But you mentioned the cold weather, right? They don't win games in cold weather. As a franchise, 11-28 in games that are 32 degrees or less, freezing temperatures, including 0-9. They haven't won since Ryan Tannehill beat Tennessee way back when, 10 years ago. They just don't win these games. And they're a model of consistency. You can bet on them against the bad, bet against them. Same thing. I thought this line was going to be at least 4. I really figured like 5.5, 6.
Right.
When I saw the 3, boy, I'm going to be all over that.
I was shocked.
4-9 against the spread last 13 games overall as well. So give it a Packers.
I bet, I tread lightly from the side perspective. It just does stand out to me, knowing how bad they have been, especially on the road against better teams. Let's dive into some props. It's a cold track, right? It's Lambeau. They're built for that. Jaden Reed and those wide receivers have played in the cold, so props-wise, I could see Jordan Love putting up, 250, 260 wouldn't shock me. The issue is going to be, can Jalen Waddle get through their total? Now, for me, Waddle got the touchdown last week. They dominated an undermanned New England secondary. I think Tyreek today, 62.5, Scotty. Again, it's prime time, Thanksgiving Day night, all eyes. This has got to be a performance where you say Tyreek steps up to some capacity. Again, I don't know if they win it, but he's got to get through the 62.5, no?
Yeah, if you just buy into not necessarily karma, but, he finds out yesterday his court case about him speeding gets thrown out. He's all happy about that, going on Twitter, so he's got a little extra juice maybe for this game. Dopey Mike McDaniel will probably play into that, feed him the football. He's been, pretty quiet these last couple of games. I don't know if he's hurt or what the deal is, but you would think Green Bay's going to score, which means the Dolphins are going to have to be throwing the football. I do love that one. I love the Tua tags over 33.5 attempts as well. I don't know what's going on with Raheem Mostert, but they're not running the ball with him. It's all A-Chain. He's done well, but somehow or another, he's getting 34 attempts. That's really not that many attempts. Again, especially going up against a Packer team that I think will put some points on the board.
So think about this. I'm going to go through the Tyreek Hill stats for you, okay? Last 100-yard performance, week 1 against Jacksonville. Hasn't had a 100-yard performance since week 1. Since week 1, his highest total has been 80 receiving yards in the loss to the Bills on November 3rd. Last 2 games, 61 yards on 7 receptions. Prior to that, in the Rams win, 3 receptions, 16 yards. I mean, Scotty, that's terrible. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns, 1 apiece in the win against the Raiders and Rams. Prior to that, he went week 1 without. Now, people are going to say the backup quarterback, but you can't say that. Look at what Jameis Winston gave you in Cleveland. Look at what some of these other backup quarterbacks have given you with lesser franchises. You're talking about one of the best wide receivers in the NFL to be held to those type of numbers. Either he's hurt or that offense is broken. We'll talk about it coming back from break. Keep it where it is.
The boys of summer become the champions of fall.
The World Series is on its way.
And SportsGrid brings you every angle. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and SiriusXM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Money Line at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. That's 800-797-1292.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7.
Get the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, we'll dive into some game specials for that matchup between the Packers and Dolphins. I'll throw some numbers out, Scotty, that maybe intrigue you. You mentioned Devon Achane. His number's 55.5 in terms of tomorrow night's matchup. That's been the problem for Miami in these games, right, is that they can't run the football consistently. Look at the game in terms of Arrowhead, right? They got shut down. They were put into predictable long third downs. I don't know if I could back Achane with a 55.5 number. But here's a number that you might be able to bite. Devon Achane and Josh Jacobs to get each 10 rushing yards each quarter, 32-1. You taking that?
Again, it's those possessions that kill you. But I think there's going to be both teams will be, throwing the ball a little bit here. I don't think you're going to get like those 9-10 play, run 7 out of the 10. Clock keeps on rolling drives. So I might be willing to take a shot on that. The Dolphins, as I mentioned before the break there, maybe it was in between the break, they've gotten rid of Mostert as far as rushing the football. I don't know what the dude did, but they're not giving him the ball at all these last couple of games. It's been all Achane. So I think he gets his numbers, and I can see Green Bay maybe kind of go, Jacobs has become more and more of a factor. He's getting a little publicity. That's not a bad number, 30+1.
Here's another one. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle to each record 5 receiving yards in each quarter. You ready for this? 38-1.
Ooh. That's a little more than I thought it would be. Look at it this way. Their over-under reception total is both right around 4.5, right? So it's basically getting, your 5 receptions, but it's got to come, 1 per quarter.
No, it's not receptions. Yards.
Right. But but you got to make, you got to get a reception in order to get a yard. So you have to have 1 reception in each quarter. So that's their normal total. So from that standpoint,
would you pull the trigger on that one?
What are they paying you on that one?
38-1.
38-1.
$100 pays 3,800.
Yeah, it's 1 reception, almost a quarter, right? That's worth a shot. You got to pick like they're all worth shot. You got to tell yourself, all right, I'm going to play like 6 or 7 of these, right? All right, $10, $15, whatever it is on each one. Hope one hits.
We talked about how inconsistent Achane and the rushing attack have been. Achane and Jacobs to get 15 rushing yards in each quarter. Take a shot. 180-1.
I was going to say that has to be a big number. That's a monster number, right? Jacobs, yep, could definitely see that. Achane would be the one. But I will tell you, like I said, you look at the number. They've not given the ball to Mostert at all. It's been all Achane these last 2 weeks.
All right, let's go with some of the...
You're going to have a fighting chance at that.
All right, so how about this one? Let's go to some of the chalkier one would be Jordan Love and Tua to have 15 yards passing in each quarter, -1.25. Okay, Jordan Love and Tua to have, let's say, 30 yards in each quarter is 5-1. Okay, and then here's a juicy one for you. Each team to score 1 rushing touchdown and 1 passing touchdown in each half, 130-1.
That's not bad. That I could see, definitely, right? Both teams have quarterbacks who love to throw. Oh, absolutely. The Packers got Jacobs that can run the ball. They get the ball down to the 1-yard line. Dolphins to a lesser extent, but there's always 1 out of the 4.
130-1 in each half.
That's a good shit. That would, on my list of like 5, 6, 7 of these things, that would absolutely be on my list, Joe.
All right.
High-scoring game. You need a high-scoring game, because you think about it, that's at least 56 points, right? It's 2 touchdowns each team each half. So it's got to be a high-scoring game when you look at it that way. But I think you'll have a shot at that.
Dolphins to score in all 4 quarters plus 220.
Yeah, I don't like that.
All right. Packers to score in all 4 quarters plus 140.
Now, that one I like a little bit more.
There you go.
But
perked up. You're perked up like a little bunny. Look at you.
Yeah. But plus 140, you'd be surprised how many scoreless quarters there are by teams.
I think first quarter is your first option, especially when you have a short week. Teams come out a little sleepy, right?
Yeah.
For Scott Wetzel, our great producer, Danny Ohlers, I'm Lisi. Have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you back on the grid Monday morning. Enjoy the games. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Now you've done it.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.